and welcome to this very special edition of the Inside Report. I'm Erina.
And I'm Doug Bear. This month we're dedicating the entire show to emergency preparedness. We're going to take an inside look at the Kitsap County Department of Emergency Management and learn a little bit about how they're using volunteers to help us prepare as a county.
And we also have some tips that you and your family can utilize in the case that Mother Nature takes a turn for the worse. And we'll also have some techniques and strategies that you can be prepared for an earthquake or other natural disaster.
So we do hope you'll enjoy the show. We will have a complete listing of all the links to the various resources we talk about in this episode. And also we'll have an announcement at the end, a special way that you can take that first step to preparedness, and we've got a way to help you. So stay tuned. We hope you enjoy the show tonight.
Well, it looks like we may have some inclement weather coming in, so let's get on inside and take a look.
Why don't we do that? Let's go on in. Well, welcome back to the Inside Report. I'm here with Dave Rasmussen. Dave is the Public Information and Outreach Coordinator for the county's Department of Emergency Management. We're here at the Emergency Management Emergency Operations Center. It's pretty quiet right now, Dave, and I understand it's not always this way.
That's right. On a normal day-to-day basis, it is just sitting and ready for some event to happen. It could be a winter storm, it could be a larger disaster. When that happens, this room fills up with people, a lot of noise, a lot of activity, because this is really a coordination center. This is where the information is gathered so that good decisions can be made and help can be sent to where it's needed the most and most quickly.
Later on in the show, we're going to talk about how each of us can prepare individually, but I understand that you have people who have stepped up beyond their own personal preparedness and are volunteering their services to support how we respond to emergencies.
We have volunteers in a lot of different ways that really do help all of the citizens of the county. We have ham radio operators, so they're facilitating some of that critical communication when other types of communication go down, like our phones and other tools that we use on a daily basis, even the internet. We know that the ham radios are going to continue to function. We have people who have volunteered with their medical background, with their social services background to help with our Medical Reserve Corps, with our FAST, which helps those with access and function needs to be able to respond to the concerns, and especially with transportation and the like. And so we have a variety of different volunteers that come and meet the needs, and we have people who've been trained throughout the county as CERT members, that's Community Emergency Response Team members, and they're out really in the neighborhoods making sure that people are safe and okay.
Very cool. Well, I understand you have a few volunteers to
we do have volunteers with us here today.
Well, why don't we meet a few?
Well, I'd look forward to introducing them to you here today.
Great.
Well, we're back again, and I'd like to introduce you to one of our great Kitsap County volunteers. This is Norma Smith, and Norma, you have told me that you have been volunteering with Kitsap County for now over 14 years. So you had been living in the community for a number of years by that point in time. What was it that opened up the door for you to start volunteering?
Well, I gave up being a paid nurse and became an unpaid nurse as a volunteer. And having worked most of my life in the medical field, I just knew there had to be something more important than sitting home.
Well, how did you find out about the opportunity to help out at Kitsap County?
I believe we had mailers soliciting people, medical people, and probably from my nursing association for medical people to come to the Medical Reserve Corps, which was just starting here.
So right at the very outset, when the Medical Reserve Corps was just forming, it was forming at the national level as well as the local level here, and you got on board.
I was one of the very first meetings they had.
And you jumped in, and what was it that made you think, you know, I should do that? That would be a good thing for me.
Probably personal experience. I was in a major earthquake, and I'd always worked hospitals up until then, and there you've got everything you want at hand. And after the earthquake, I learned the only person you can depend on anymore is yourself. You better be prepared, and so I decided, besides just me, that taught me about my neighbors, because an awful lot of neighbors depended on me at that stage too.
So really, being a person who went through a disaster, you wanted to contribute to your community with the skills that you have to help out that wider community from your professional background especially if a disaster strikes.
Well, and it made me much more aware of the need for it. You know, if you'd asked me, yeah, I said we all need to know, but boy, I learned the hard way. We all need to know what to do when a disaster happens.
We certainly do. So we're going to, in a little while, talk about as well the things that we can do to prepare for a disaster.
And there's lots.
And there are a lot of things. Now tell me about the other opportunity that you said yes to a few years back with Kitsap County as a member of our FAST team.
Our FAST team is set up to help people with special needs, either in shelters or out, whenever any sort of incident happens, be it an earthquake versus a winter storm. But we need to have these people cared for and somebody aware of the fact they're going to need help.
So when people are displaced from their homes and they have to leave behind perhaps maybe wheelchairs, walkers, or other resources that help them just get through life.
Our job is go out and, if you need it, we got to go out and find it for you.
So we identify the need and then put the pieces in place so that they will actually then have those resources in a short amount of time.
Right.
So you're a part of that team, and in fact, that's a growing team. Would you like to just give a word of encouragement for others to join us?
Yes, we'd love to have anybody come and volunteer. At the end of the program, I believe listings will be made where you can reach these places and come and volunteer and help us out. You don't have to be a medical person. We need all sorts of people to come and help.
All kinds of people, skills, and professional backgrounds
Right.
would be welcome. Excellent. Well, thank you, Norma.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you sharing with us about how you stepped into your role as a volunteer with Kitsap County. Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, I have with me now Ken Hewlett. Ken, you've been a part of this community for a number of years, and a while ago you found out about an opportunity to volunteer as a Kitsap County volunteer. Tell me about that and how that unfolded.
I was the safety officer at my employment, and for quite a number of years, I ran across the Kitsap DEM website, and on the website had various announcements of disaster preparedness, which I was working with my employer, and also they came up with an announcement for the community emergency response team training, and I felt that would fit in very well with what I was doing with disaster training and safety management at my employer, so I signed up for the training.
So you knew about the importance of safety and the training from your work site, and then you just found out about this training that we in a shorthand call CERT. What does that mean? What does that entail?
Well, CERT, it stands for Community Emergency Response Team. We're trained for minor search and rescue, assisting the community in case of disaster. We're trained to take care of ourselves and our families first to make sure that we're safe and taken care of, and then we go out into our neighborhood and into the community to help with events in a disaster or major emergency where our skills can be utilized with helping the community, responding to the emergency and helping the community survive.
So you've got some skills and some capabilities that you've learned so that your neighborhood then is a safer place, because we know that the first responders won't be able to get there right away in a large disaster. So you're there, you've got a green CERT vest, and that identifies you as a person who's taken this training, and you're just there as a resource and as a help.
That's right. We can go out into our neighborhood and our community to check on our neighbors and friends to make sure that they're safe and that they don't need any special assistance. If they do need special assistance, such as maybe rescuing them from a damaged home, as long as we're not putting ourselves at risk, we can go in and help them get out of the household and help them with emergency measures and life-saving measures sometimes.
Great. So you're given real good training, but also strict guidelines as to how you implement your care, because we don't want you to be in harm's way either.
Because we want to protect ourselves to be able to help out the neighborhood and the community when that need arises.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your readiness to serve and help your community in a time of need. Thank you for the commitment that you made in taking the training, but also to make yourself available to help your neighbors in a time of need.
Thank you.
So we are now back with Dave, Norma, and Ken, and when we talk about preparedness, I think especially here in the Pacific Northwest that we have a lot of these conversations and there's a lot of things that we can do to be prepared. But, it can be overwhelming, but there's a lot of things, and each step that someone can do to be more prepared can make your family more comfortable in the case of an emergency. So right now I'm going to pass to Dave, who's going to lead a conversation about how you can be more prepared.
That's right. There are a number of steps that you can take with resources that you already have in hand or resources that aren't hard to gather so that you can be more prepared. And Ken, one of the things that we've talked about in the past is how important it is to have resources, disaster supplies in your car. Can you speak to that for a few moments?
That's right. We never know where or when a disaster is going to happen or emergency. So you might be in your car. You spend a lot of time in your car going to and from work or for pleasure, and if something happens, you may be stuck in your car and you may be there for quite some time. So you should have an emergency supply pack in your car to help you survive. Some of the things that you should include in that pack: emergency food. This emergency food pack isn't something that you're going to break into and eat like you would your chocolate bars or something like that, but it's there in case of an emergency. It will sustain you and sustain your life.
And how long does that last for?
This is good for about 10 years.
Okay, great.
And supplies that I show you are readily available. You can Google them or go to Amazon or someplace like that to get the supplies, and they're reasonably cheap. You should also have a first aid kit in your car. Something happens, you don't have a doctor you can run to right away to get treatment. You need to be able to take care of yourself. Other things that you should have in your car to help you survive, maybe an emergency radio. Your car's battery is only going to last so long, and you want to be able to find out what's going on around you, that you can make yourself better available, know how long you may have to survive out there, or just what the weather conditions are going to be.
Now, one thing I see that you have there, Ken, is a bright red whistle. Why would you carry that whistle in your car?
A whistle can be heard from quite a long distance away. You can shout for a long time, but your voice is going to go away quickly. You can pound on things. People may not hear that, but people are going to hear a whistle. And so you want to carry a whistle in any of your emergency kits, whether it's at home, at work, or in your car, because that's a way to let people know that you need help.
Well, what about the winter weather? What type of things would you want to have in your car, especially mindful that a person may be impacted, whether it be snow or something else that might delay their travel?
Well, first thing you want to have in the car is an extra blanket or two. You want to have enough blankets or emergency clothes that will help support any people that you normally carry in the car. So you should carry extra hats and extra gloves and things like that in the car, as well as your regular your tire change, maybe a tow rope. You should also have things like emergency flares or the emergency triangle reflector triangles. If you're stuck alongside the road, you don't want someone else running into you. You want to alert them to
That's
that
right.
you're stuck.
Okay. So one thing that I would want to add to that, especially those who are traveling to work and maybe they typically are wearing dress shoes, maybe even high heels to work, having good durable walking shoes or hiking boots so that they can even leave their car and be able to walk a distance would be
That's
helpful.
right. You know, when your feet get cold, everything is cold. And so you want to be able to support yourself well if you have to walk out. A good pair of overboots over your shoes are good to help insulate your feet as well as keep them dry. A good pair of shoes. If you don't have a good pair of shoes, something as simple as a grocery bag you can put over your feet, over your stockings, over your feet, and then put your feet inside your shoes, and that will help keep your feet warm even if they get wet, because it acts like a wetsuit.
Great.
Good idea.
Norma, you've been mindful of preparedness for a long time, and especially because you were a person who went through the Northridge earthquake a number of years ago.
Yes, I did.
And what did you learn out of that experience, and what supplies and resources do you have because of that experience? So tell us, first of all, what happened years ago.
Well, it was the large earthquake in California. And the first thing I learned was, I'm part of a neighborhood, I'm not alone. And you better be prepared, and hopefully prepared to even help your neighbors, because everything's going to be shut down, nothing's going to be left. And now we're saying to advise people to have supplies on hand for up to 2 weeks. It's simple to do. There are lots of places that will help you, organizations here that will help people know what to do in their neighborhood to get prepared. It's simple. You can do it step by step, day by day. My particular interests are pets and seniors and people with special needs.
Well, tell us first of all about the pets. What do you want to be mindful in terms of taking care of your pets?
Well, these are, at my age, these are your babies, and so they're very important to you. The first thing is that somebody else besides you knows they're there. I have the keys to 4 neighbors' houses, so we will always make sure our pets will be taken care of.
Excellent.
And we know who has how many pets. Secondly, if you have to leave your home for whatever reason and can't take your pet with you, you better have a safe place to put them that they can't escape from, because they're going to be just as panicked as I was and want to run and hide. And also that you have food and water, especially water. We've even suggested filling the bathtub partly full, so you've got fresh water for them they can reach.
Okay.
You did mention that maybe pets have a tendency to run in the case of emergency. What happens if your dog or your cat, you can't find them?
Well, depending, just go looking. Sometimes you just have to leave them, which is difficult, but what you do is try to make sure they can't panic during this kind of an emergency. So you keep them confined, put them in a room without windows, make sure they have food and water. If you have to leave them, keep them locked in.
Okay.
And also for your seniors, and again, these are your neighbors, and if they have trouble getting in and out of their house access, you need to be able to go help them get ready to know. So this is all stuff we can do in advance, and it's most important to be ready before it happens.
So the goal is to bring 15 to 20 homes together so that they're supporting one another. First of all, they've met together and they know what skills and talents and capabilities. Maybe you have a person who has a medical background. Maybe you just have a person who is skilled with a chainsaw. Some people in the neighborhood have a generator. All of these neighbors have something to add, but sometimes they have special needs that need to be encouraged and supported as well. And then they receive a little booklet, and on that booklet, on the back page, it says either help on one side or okay on the other. That is posted on the door so that the immediate neighbors around, when they survey immediately after disaster, especially an earthquake, they can know how each of the neighbors are doing.
We are all so used to, I'll run to the store and get a new one. You're not going to do that in a major disaster, so you should have at least a 2-week supply. And even as an RN and with some experience, I'll say it should be probably shrink wrapped, because medications do deteriorate in moisture and things like that. Make sure your doctor knows in advance so he can help you get prescription medicines, because your pharmacy's not going to be open probably for a long time, and there's going to be people a lot sicker than you are. They're going to need the help.
Ken and Norma, what are some key things that you can think of to really help facilitate communication? Okay, she's got her smartphone here.
Message.
So
Messages may well work, whereas phones don't.
a text message.
Yeah.
So use that, a simple
That's
message
a
like I'm
possibility.
okay, I'm at home, something like that.
And to have all of you in the family have a place in common outside of your area, preferably out of state. For instance, in that earthquake, my sister in Florida could call me within 20 minutes of the earthquake. It was days before I could phone out. So everybody knew if we had planned in advance, all my kids could have called her and said, oh yeah, we've heard from Mom and I'm here and she's there. And you have a common meeting place, but you have a common person that you call and check in. That's your base.
Excellent. So one thing that, I'm going to shift gears here, you pointed out having like this radio, and that can be helpful when you're out in your car, but also great to have radios in your supplies at your home as well. And so with that, we always encourage people to have a battery operated radio. It can be a crank as well, but if you have a radio that is powered by batteries, make sure to store those batteries outside so that those batteries are fresh when you put them in your radio. And then you can always use our Seattle area news radio stations to get updates for the whole region. Emergency management has also been stepping into a partnership with our one Kitsap area radio station, which is 1400 AM KITZ. And in that setting, we will be able to broadcast information that is particular to the needs and concerns that we have in Kitsap County. So use the internet if it's available, but we can't guarantee that it will be. Use your smartphones if you can. But sometimes it's a matter of using some of the old-fashioned things like leaving notes on pieces of paper on a front door or on a community bulletin board or at the feed store so that we can use whatever vehicles we need to enhance the communication in a neighborhood or among household members.
Communication in an emergency is really important because it helps people know what's going on. It helps people be informed about what's happening to you as an individual and set up meeting places. And information is power.
Yeah. Now, I have one other question, Norma, out of your experience. You learned the importance of having a few important items under your bed. And could you tell us what, because the Northridge earthquake happened in the middle of the night and everything was dark.
4 o'clock in the morning.
What are important things for a person to have under their bed?
They should have shoes because one of the biggest injuries you get is cut feet from people stepping on broken glass as you try to get out of the house. And I had a husband with feet to prove it. So you should have shoes next to your bed. If you have medications for severe problems like diabetes, glasses, the good shoes.
How about leather gloves?
Gloves protect your body because you don't know what your house is going to look like. Ours was down around us, and just getting out, you're taking your life in your hands. So, but the only other important thing I learned was when you do that, put them in a pillowcase or a laundry hamper and tie them to the leg of your bed, because after the earthquake, it took me 2 days to find my shoes. I found the bed right away. But things do. What was there isn't anymore, which is why it's so important to store your things that you're going to need in an important place. Don't just set them on the stairway and figure they're going to be there because they're not going to be there when you look.
So there are times in which you can no longer stay in your own home, and can you have your bag with you there of a go kit? Something that you can take, and what are some of the other things that you'd want to have with you if you had to suddenly leave your home because you could no longer stay there?
Well, you want to have your supplies in something that you can grab and take with you quickly, and it should be readily accessible, such as at the door as you're leaving the house, you can grab it and take it with you. But you want to have things like water with you. You may use a water filtration set. Take that because you can use that to filter available water and make it safe to drink.
And how much water should you have on you?
Well, you should have at least 1 gallon per day per person that you're supporting. And this is for cooking, for drinking, and for minor sanitation. You don't want to use that water for flushing the toilet, say, because, but you can save your gray water and use that for flushing the toilet, or you can use gray water for supporting your pets as well, because they can tolerate things that you can't tolerate.
Okay.
Another good source of water at your home, if you happen to shelter in place, is your water heater. You've got 40 to 60 gallons of water readily available to you right there.
Great point.
And just make sure you turn off the power and cool it down before you start drinking.
And also the preparedness, make sure it's tied down so it's not going to split.
Otherwise, you don't have that water anymore. Other things that you can take with you are a heat source, something you can use to heat water or cook food with. Again, extra food. And it can be something like this. It can be the food bars. It can be the dehydrated meals that you can get at Costco or REI or any place like that. Something for entertainment.
Go.
Because sometimes you don't have anything to do right after a disaster. You've got to make some entertainment. So especially if you have young kids, make sure that you have some fun, simple toys and activities that they can be engaged in.
emergency medical, or medicine, like Norman was saying. You should have emergency medication that you can take with you. And if you've got people with special needs in your household, you need to make sure that you can accommodate their special needs as well.
Great. I'm going to just add one more thing to that list, Ken, and that's the importance of having photocopies of your important documents.
Yes.
Whether that's insurance, whether it's a marriage license or your marriage certificate, other critical birth certificates, other things like that, so that you could have that readily available. A lot of people will put a flash drive in their kit as well, so they've electronically stored a number of important items, and especially those family photographs, so that they're able to go with you and you have them and you're holding on to them, because it's those kind of things that make a lot of difference in a time of grief and a time of loss.
A few years ago, my folks' house was burnt down. All the pictures, all the important papers, everything that we ever had as children or growing up were lost at that point.
You know, hearing people on television after an emergency, the most common thing you hear is, all my pictures were there.
So the good news is there are a lot of ways to store and back them up, so that even if disaster strikes, you still have some of those treasures.
Yeah. You mentioned the flash drive for copying your important papers and pictures too. That's a very good idea. Another way, files get scattered, they get lost. Get a plastic, like a scrapbooking container, and you can put your important papers in that, put them with your go kit, and they're ready to go when you leave the house.
Right.
Well, we've only been just scratching the surface here today.
Yeah.
There's so many things that an individual or a family can do to be ready. And what we really want people to do is just to get started. Maybe the first step is to put that sturdy pair of shoes underneath the bed, and do that tonight so that you have that ready to go. Added to that might even be, especially with kids, adding a bicycle helmet, because that's one way to protect the head if a serious event happens and they need to protect themselves from things that are falling.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
there's small steps that people can take, and that's what we want to encourage people to start the process and to continue to build their readiness. We do encourage people to go to find out more resources on our website, again, kitsapdem.org, and that will point them to even more.
Yeah. Well,
Don't wait till the disaster to get prepared.
Absolutely.
It's too late.
By then,
Yeah.
it's too late.
Well, thank you very much. I think this has been incredibly educational, and there's so many things to think about, and I'm very thankful to Dave, Norma, and Ken for joining us and sharing their experiences and knowledge. So we've covered a lot of great information here, and there's a lot of links that you can go to find some more information that's listed up on your screen right now. And so we encourage you all to take your first step to being prepared.
Well, that was pretty interesting. I kind of thought I was prepared for what's going on, but I don't think I am.
No, I don't think I am either. And, you know, traditionally I've always thought that I needed to be prepared for 48 hours, but
Right.
now we're talking about being prepared for 14 days.
It changes the game, and I do like in that one part where they talked about that can be intimidating for people. I don't have a whole lot put away, but I like the idea of picking up things one step at a time and building that kit for what happens eventually.
Yeah, so I think we're going to make the pledge to take the first step of being prepared, and we're going to challenge you to do the same thing.
So what we'd like you to do is take the survey. To the first 50 that respond to our survey, we're going to send you this hand-cranked flashlight. It'll allow you to respond to the nighttime with a hand-cranked flashlight that doesn't require batteries.
And additionally, we're going to be giving out 25 of these hand-cranked torches to the first people that hashtag KC First Step and show us their picture of them getting prepared.
So that's what we want you to do, is take that first step. I'm going to head down and buy some water.
I need to go buy some food.
All right, well, remember to tune in next month for the January edition of the Inside Report. We do hope that you enjoyed this program, and we hope that you too will take that first step to get prepared. Thanks for watching.